A 30-year-old woman today looks nothing like her counterpart in 1870. Put their photographs side by side, and you would swear the Victorian was 20 years older. Gaunt cheeks, missing teeth, gray hair, skin weathered and cracked like old leather. We tell ourselves this was simply how people aged before modern medicine arrived. That explanation is comforting. It is also entirely wrong. The Victorians were not aging faster. They were being systematically destroyed. Their bodies were under constant assault from forces we have now entirely forgotten. Here is why reaching 30 in Victorian Britain so often meant looking 50. Start with the mouth. Nothing aged a Victorian faster than losing their teeth. By 35, the average person had lost most of them. Dental care as we know it did not exist. There were no regular checkups, no fluoride, no preventive treatments. If a tooth hurt badly enough, you had it pulled. That was the extent of Victorian dentistry for ordinary people. Sugar had become cheap and widely available for the first time in history. The working classes consumed it in enormous quantities, stirred into tea, spread on bread, baked into affordable treats. But they had no toothbrushes, no toothpaste, no understanding of what sugar actually did to enamel over time. The result was catastrophic. Teeth rotted and fell out one by one. A missing tooth changes your face. Missing 5 changes it dramatically. Missing most of them transforms you entirely. Cheeks sink inward, the jawline collapses, the mouth takes on that characteristic pinched look we see in every Victorian photograph. A 30-year-old woman missing her teeth looked like a 60-year-old woman today. The structure of her face had simply disappeared. Here is a detail that will disturb you. False teeth existed, but only the wealthy could afford properly fitted ones. Everyone else made do with whatever they could find. Some bought teeth pulled from the dead. After major battles, scavengers collected teeth from corpses and sold them to dentists. These were called Waterloo teeth. The poor literally wore the teeth of dead soldiers. Those who could afford nothing simply went without. They learned to smile with closed lips. They avoided certain foods. They aged decades in appearance while still young in years. Now consider the skin. A face exposed to Victorian conditions had no chance of staying youthful. Most people worked outdoors in an era before sunscreen existed. Farm laborers, market sellers, builders, and servants who hung laundry in the yard all spent long hours in the sun. The sun damaged their skin relentlessly, year after year, with no protection whatsoever. But sunlight was only part of the assault. The products people used for washing were brutally harsh. Soap meant lye soap made from animal fat and ash. It stripped the skin of every natural oil. Women scrubbed their faces with it daily. The result was skin that dried, cracked, and became wrinkled decades before its time. Moisturizer did not exist. The idea of protecting skin from environmental damage was unknown. Working-class women had no creams, no lotions, no treatments of any kind. Their skin aged in plain sight, weathering like leather left out in the rain. Men fared no better. Shaving meant a straight razor dragged across dry skin, often without proper soap. Cuts and nicks were constant. Infections were common. The daily ritual of shaving left faces scarred and rough. Add decades of sun exposure and harsh soap, and you have the deeply lined, leathery complexions staring out from every Victorian photograph. Then there was hair. Graying hair today is associated with middle age, perhaps late 40s or 50s. In Victorian Britain, gray hair at 28 was unremarkable. Full gray by 35 was common. Hair thinning and falling out affected men and women alike, far earlier than it does today. Nutritional deficiencies played the largest role. Diets lacking in protein, iron, and essential vitamins weakened hair at the root. It grew thin and brittle. It lost its color years ahead of schedule. Stress accelerated the process, and Victorian life was nothing but stress, a constant grind of physical labor, financial precarity, and the ever-present threat of disease and death. Women suffered additional damage from the fashions of the era. Tight hairstyles pulled constantly at the hairline, causing traction alopecia. Hair pieces and extensions were attached with pins that damaged the scalp. Worse still, the products used to style and color hair contained lead, mercury, and other toxins that poisoned the body while destroying the hair they were meant to beautify. A woman who followed the beauty standards of her day was systematically damaging her own appearance without knowing it. The pursuit of fashion was quietly destroying her. But everything visible, the teeth, the skin, the hair, was merely surface damage. The deeper destruction came from the air itself. Victorian cities were black with coal smoke. London, Manchester, Birmingham, all of them burned coal for heat, for cooking, for industrial power. The smoke had nowhere to go. It hung in the streets, seeped through windows, coated everything in a layer of grime. Studies estimate that breathing London air in the 1880s was equivalent to smoking over 40 cigarettes per day. Every single day, from birth until death, the particles lodged in the lungs entered the bloodstream and accelerated every aging process in the body. You could taste the air, you could see it. The workplace finished what the air started. Different trades destroyed bodies in different ways, but all of them destroyed bodies. Factory workers aged a decade for every 5 years employed. The machines never stopped. Neither did the workers. Consider the match girls of East London. They worked 14-hour shifts dipping wooden sticks into white phosphorus. The chemical rotted their jaws from the inside. Phossy jaw, it was called. Teeth fell out. Bones crumbled. Faces collapsed into themselves. These workers were teenagers and young women. By 25, those who survived looked ancient. Their jawbones had literally dissolved. Miners descended into darkness before dawn and emerged after sunset, never seeing daylight for months during winter. Coal dust filled their lungs with every breath. Black lung killed them slowly, but before it killed them, it aged them. Constant coughing, labored breathing, skin turned gray from particles trapped beneath the surface. A 40-year-old miner looked 60. A 50-year-old miner was rare. Laundresses spent their days elbow-deep in caustic chemicals. LY and bleach burned their hands until the skin cracked and never healed. The steam aged their faces. The posture bent their spines. A lifetime of scrubbing left women stooped and weathered, old before their time. Every trade had its poison. Hatters went mad from mercury used in felt production. Potters absorbed lead through their skin. Chimney sweeps developed cancers. Seamstresses went blind from close work in dim light. The list goes on. No workplace was safe. No job protected your body. The cruel irony was that home offered no refuge either. The Victorians were being poisoned in their own houses without any knowledge of the danger. Arsenic was everywhere. It colored the green wallpaper that became fashionable in middle-class homes. It lurked in fabric dyes, in candles, in children's toys. Families breathed arsenic vapors every night while they slept. Chronic low-level poisoning aged them from within. Lead lined the pipes that carried water. Every drink, every cup of tea, every bowl of soup contained traces of lead. The metal accumulated in bones and organs over years. It damaged brains. It weakened bodies. It accelerated every sign of aging. Mercury appeared in medicines, prescribed for everything from constipation to syphilis. Doctors administered it freely, believing it a cure. It was instead a slow poison. Patients who survived their original illness emerged with tremors, tooth loss, and prematurely aged bodies. The treatment was often worse than the disease. These toxins worked invisibly, over years. You could not taste arsenic in the air. You could not see lead in your water. You simply aged faster than you should have, and nobody understood why. Then there was diet. The working-class people of Victorian Britain were chronically malnourished, despite eating enough calories to survive. Their food lacked almost everything bodies actually need. The typical working-class diet consisted of bread, potatoes, and tea. Meat appeared rarely. Fresh vegetables were luxuries. Fruit was seasonal and expensive. This meant widespread deficiency in vitamins that bodies require to maintain themselves. Scurvy was not just a sailor's disease. Scurvy, from lack of vitamin C, affected huge portions of the urban poor. Without adequate vitamin C, wounds healed slowly, gums bled and receded, skin bruised at the slightest touch and failed to repair itself properly, teeth loosened and fell out even without decay. Rickets bent the bones of children who never received enough vitamin D. They grew into adults with curved spines and bowed legs. Osteomalacia softened the bones of adults, particularly women who had borne multiple children. Their skeletons were literally weakening from within. Iron deficiency left people pale and exhausted. Their hair thinned, their nails became brittle. Dark circles formed permanently beneath their eyes. They looked ill because they were ill, chronically and invisibly malnourished. Protein deficiency meant muscles never developed properly, and wounds healed slowly. The body cannibalized itself to survive. People became gaunt and wasted, even when they had enough bread to fill their stomachs. A well-fed 30-year-old and a malnourished 30-year-old do not look the same age. They might as well be different generations. Disease compounded everything. Victorian cities were breeding grounds for infections we have now almost forgotten. Typhoid, cholera, tuberculosis, smallpox. Waves of illness swept through populations regularly. Those who survived were often left permanently marked. Smallpox scarred faces beyond recognition. Tuberculosis wasted bodies to skeletal thinness. Cholera and typhoid left survivors weak for years afterward, their systems never fully recovering. Survival was not the same as recovery. Someone who survived 2 serious illnesses by age 30 had a body that had been through war. They looked like veterans of a conflict nobody could see. And then there was childbirth. The burden fell entirely on women, and it aged them faster than almost anything else. The average Victorian woman experienced between 5 and 7 pregnancies. Each pregnancy drained calcium from her bones to build the baby's skeleton. Each pregnancy strained organs that never fully recovered. There was a folk saying that a woman lost a tooth for every child she bore. It was not superstition, it was medically accurate. Calcium depletion during pregnancy and nursing literally dissolved teeth from the inside. A woman who had borne 6 children by age 32 had a body that had been through 6 major physical traumas. Her teeth were likely gone. Her hair had thinned with each pregnancy. Her skin had stretched and never recovered. Her spine had curved from years of carrying weight. She was not old. Her body had simply been used up. But here is the detail that will shock you most. The very products Victorian women used to preserve their beauty were destroying them faster than anything else. Lead-based face powder was the foundation of Victorian cosmetics. Women applied it daily to achieve the fashionable pale complexion. They were painting poison directly onto their skin. Lead absorbs through the skin into the bloodstream. It accumulates in organs. It damages the brain and nervous system. It causes tremors, tooth loss, and premature aging of exactly the kind women were trying to prevent. The more a woman tried to look young, the faster she aged. The cruelest irony imaginable. Arsenic complexion wafers were sold as beauty aids. Women ate them deliberately, believing arsenic would give them clear, luminous skin. They were slowly poisoning themselves in pursuit of attractiveness. Belladonna drops in large pupils to make eyes appear more alluring. They also damaged vision over time. The price of beautiful eyes was eventually not being able to see. Women who followed fashion were systematically destroying their own bodies. They never knew. Nobody told them. The connection between their beauty routines and their accelerated aging remained invisible until long after they were dead. Sleep should have offered some recovery. It did not. Victorian sleep was nothing like modern sleep. Working days stretched 14 hours or more. Factory shifts began before dawn and ended after dark. Domestic servants rose at 5 and retired at midnight. The average working person simply did not have time for adequate rest. When they did sleep, conditions were brutal. Entire families shared beds. Overcrowded tenements meant noise at all hours. No temperature regulation meant freezing winters and sweltering summers. The quality of sleep, even when time allowed for it, was perpetually poor. Sleep deprivation accelerates every visible sign of aging. Dark circles form, skin loses elasticity, wounds heal slowly. The body cannot repair itself without rest. Victorians were running on permanent deficits, never catching up, always falling further behind. Alcohol made everything worse. Gin was cheaper than clean water in many areas. Beer was considered safer to drink than the contaminated water supply. The working classes drank heavily, not from moral failing, but from practical necessity and the need to escape lives that offered little other comfort. Chronic alcohol consumption damages liver, skin, and brain. It disrupts sleep further. It depletes nutrients the body desperately needed. Heavy drinkers aged visibly faster, their faces becoming bloated or gaunt, their skin taking on the telltale flush of broken capillaries. And beneath all of this physical damage lay something invisible but equally destructive: stress, constant, unrelenting, inescapable stress. Victorians buried their children regularly. Infant mortality meant that losing 2 or 3 children was ordinary, expected, simply part of life. But expected grief is still grief. The psychological toll accumulated with every small coffin. Financial precarity was constant. No social safety net existed. Illness meant no wages. No wages meant no food. The workhouse loomed as a final humiliation for those who fell behind. This anxiety never lifted. It wore grooves into faces. It turned hair gray. Grief was not an event. It was a permanent condition. We look at Victorian photographs now and see strangers who appear impossibly old for their stated ages. We tell ourselves that medicine has advanced, that nutrition has improved, that life is simply better now. All of this is true. But understanding exactly why they aged so fast reveals how comprehensively brutal their existence actually was. Every system attacked them. The air they breathed, the water they drank, the work they performed, the food they lacked, the products they trusted, the diseases that swept through, the pregnancies that depleted them, the sleep they never got, the alcohol that offered the only escape, the grief that never ended. We have escaped almost all of it. Clean water flows from our taps. Our air is breathable. Our workplaces have regulations. Our food contains vitamins. Our medicine actually heals. Our pregnancies are spaced and supported. We sleep in quiet rooms at comfortable temperatures. We expect our children to outlive us. We spend billions trying to look younger while taking for granted everything that actually keeps us young. The Victorians would have traded every anti-aging cream ever invented for a full set of teeth and clean drinking water. Which of these aging factors surprised you most? Which ones had you never considered? And what have you escaped that you never think about?